Hi, I'm your host Kelly Bowen, and you are listening to the Lifestyle Finance Australia show, which is dedicated to creating greater awareness about the power of leveraging finance when it comes to accelerating your growth and personal development. And we celebrate the hundreds of coaches, thought leaders, and game changers we support. This is a platform where you can meet some of the world's best experts in online business, trauma healing, digital marketing, relationship coaching, abundance and wealth creation, spiritual ascension, body healing, and wellness. So if you're looking for your next coach, healer, or mentor to take you on the next step in your journey, this is the show for you. Let's play. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to a very special episode of the Lifestyle Finance Show. I have an incredible guest with me today. I had the pleasure, or currently having the pleasure, of speaking on her amazing Quantum Leap retreat. And this particular guest does this really special thing for each of her speakers at the end of her retreats, and that she gives them a channeled message. And my God, in that short 5 minutes of channeled message, she almost blew me away in terms of, in that short transition, she has just taken my mission with lifestyle finance and its role in the world and what it's here to do in terms of anchoring light and abundance, and even just my purpose as the vessel of that, bringing like the earthly abundance and the heavenly abundance together. Totally next level. It's taken me all week to integrate and even like wrap my human consciousness around it. So it is such a pleasure and an honor to have Sigrid here on the Lifestyle Finance Show to talk a little bit about what she does, to share a bit of some of the cool, amazing stuff that's going on this retreat right now. So Sigrid, welcome to the show. It is such an honor to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It is such a delight. And I'm so excited. It's still like kind of waving through the field, right? So fun. Yeah, I love doing that. It was so fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I love when you say waving through the field, because this was how our first conversation went. And I love when people that are phenomenal at what they do can get out of their way to just be in the flow of what's coming through, because it creates this incredible space for magic to come through, because it's no longer the human trying to get a message out. It creates this beautiful space for the soul to embody the vessel to share absolute magic. So for those of pretend that I don't know about the amazing awesomeness that you do, and for our listeners who are meeting you for the first time, can you please share with us what you do?
Yes, I will give two options, or actually
Great.
multiple. When I
Awesome.
don't really know people and they don't really know any spirituality, I say I help, or I give women, I allow women to access their birthright to have it all, meaning creating a life of and. In my case, that means I'm a mother of 4 children. I also run a highly successful business. I'm a very spiritual, conscious channel, and I'm also very down to earth and practical. And so this is who I am. I have group programs, I lead events, I lead one-on-one experiences. So that is how it looks. But when you ask me, who am I, like what on the planet, who am I realized, and I didn't know that always, that I have the gift to be plugged in to greater consciousness in the most expansive way. So if I have a person, a situation in front of me, I always receive the highest guidance, truth about that in actually a pretty practical way. And so I'm known for soul embodiment. I'm known for soul alignment. That is really what I want people to understand, because that is actually how I started to quantum leap in my life in all arenas. Is that clear, or is it
Yeah,
still?
you landed. I can absolutely testify this ability to take these vast concepts and put it into, like, see the highest aspect of somebody and then quantify that down into the preciseness and such a
Yeah.
direct message. Like, I saw you in action. You're incredible. Blew my mind. I got straight off like the call and I called my best friend. I was like, oh my God, la 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 la. And she was like, yeah, I know. So it is. I've totally experienced this gift and this magic. There's two parts where I want to go with this conversation. And that's about how you've developed your relationship with the word and the other part, before we get to and, because this was something really sexy that we were talking about before, because I'm a big believer of and too. I do believe that we can have it all. We don't live in a universe of scarcity. We live in an abundant universe. Scarcity is just a man-made construct. It's a mind limited paradigm that the more we evolve and ascend and come into our heart consciousness, the more we start to let this go. However, it's a journey. And I love and for that reason, because it does suggest we can have it all. So I'd love to talk about and the other thing that I'd love to talk about is, how did you get to that point that you knew that soul embodiment and helping people have it all was your path? Like, where did this come from? Did you just, as you were younger, knew and evolved into this, or was there like a pivotal moment where you grew into this aspect?
Yeah, so I will just weave them in, okay? So the and originated in my mother trying to teach me to choose. I always wanted and. I wanted to go to this birthday party and that. And I felt everything was possible. And she, for a long time, tried to make me understand that on this plane, you need to choose. And I never really bought into that. So that was actually my and thing already kind of being there. And so the first part, I'm actually turning 45 tomorrow. So the first part of my life was very normal. And I always knew that I was embodied, because as an 8-year-old, I was not raised Catholic or anything like that. I knew I was incarnated, but I didn't have the clear remembrance, although I could sense energies in very clear ways. I didn't translate it at that time because I thought everyone was capable of that. And so that's why I, as a child, did not understand why all these people were lying. But the truth is, they were not lying. They were just not aware of their disalignment. And I, as a child, would already see all of that. So that was just a gift I had without realizing that was a gift. And so I went through college, university. I became a mother in a relationship. And when I was in 2015, so that's now 8 years ago, I went through a separation, which was heartbreaking, because all I ever wanted was, I wanted to become a mother and I wanted to fulfill my mission. At that time, I was a social worker, and I knew the box was way too small. And so that moment gave me the permission to let go of all of my expectations, all of my dreams, all of the projections, because everything I ever wanted was broken. Like, my ideal was broken. This was actually the greatest gift, because in that I decided this breakup has to become meaningful for my children. I had a very, very, again, if I talk about it, I get goosebumps, like a very strong intention that it had to become meaningful. And so that was when I gave myself permission. And because I didn't know the solution anymore, I tried everything in my human potential to make things work. I decided from now on, I will trust soul only. Now, in this process, what started to happen is, there was a night I was lying in my bed, and these massive angels came into my room, and I was not used to seeing things. So I remember lying there, I'm like, I'm going crazy. What is this? And they were communicating telepathically with me, and they said, you are an earth angel. Are you ready to step onto your mission? And I could feel very clearly a no. Like, yeah, I could feel very clearly a no was clearly not the option. And so that was the moment where I would wake up early, because I had 3 very small children. I was working as a social worker, and I was figuring it out. Like, I was doing mindset work. And, that was the moment I started to kind of open up. And every morning, and I still do that, when I'm not clear, I asked, show me, lead me, guide me. And I would trust that it would be shown to me, and that I didn't have to figure it out with my human brain. So that's why I gave up my human brain as a solution to manifestation and creation. And I fully anchored in the trust and the belief. And I did that with the clear sentence, show me, lead me, guide me. And that was my gateway of, I'm surrendering. And the truth was, at that moment, is I will give up, because I don't have a clue what else to do. That was then. Now it feels as surrender. When I started to do this, it was pure, like, trying to survive. I don't have a clue. If you're out there, show me, right? That was more kind of the energy. And they did. And so then after that, I decided, because I had received guidance before, like a lot of it, I was just not willing to line up with the consequences, because one of the consequences was separate. And I was like, not hearing you. No, 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 no. That is not my solution. And so from that moment, I was like, whatever the consequence is, and this is how I lead, I will choose soul alignment over my brain, over safety, over anything physical. Which is, if you understand this level of alignment, this level of connecting to who you truly are, this is how I created this new phenomenal like relationship. We're getting married, we have a fourth child, right, together. This is how we created the home. This is how I created the 7-figure business. This is how I created this exquisite channel, and really being so available as a pure channel, which I am, and enjoying it from my human as well. So I blend both. So I'm not a firm believer of soul only. I'm a firm believer of blending my human and my desires as a human with my gifts and my potential of the soul, and then allowing the creation to arise.
Yeah, wow. Let's just mic drop that. I
Wow.
want to go back to a couple of pieces, because there was a few things you said there that I think really deserve to be paused on and acknowledged, because they're fucking huge. And having been through my own journey in learning to align with my soul, it's not the journey of the faint-hearted. So when you said that you're aligned with your soul because you felt a little bit like there was no other option, then as you've gone down that path and started to build that muscle, and soul starts to show you, and then you get to those points where soul is asking you to make the decisions where the price of your new life is the cost of your old life. And it's one of my favorite sayings. I don't know who originally said that, but never have I experienced that saying to be more true until I started really learning to align with my soul. And it is sometimes, in doing that, it is heartbreaking and it is gut-wrenching, and it takes immense courage. So my question, well, first I want to acknowledge you for that, because that's incredible, Sigrid. There are so many people on the planet that hear that guidance, but they don't do it. And what happens? Life gets worse and worse and worse. And God forbid they manifest an illness or some other kind of catastrophe, because if we don't listen, the message gets louder. It's not, they don't go away. They keep trying to shake us up to be like, hey, life doesn't have to be like this. It can be better. Yet, how did you cultivate, and still how do you manage it when you get that guidance where literally the cost of the new life and everything you desire is the cost of the old life? And how do you break out of that comfort zone piece, that comfortableness, or even when you just know that it's not good for you, but you're still getting so much out of it and you're being called somewhere else, and at the beginning of the new path it doesn't feel better. It might feel lonely, it might feel scary, it might feel like you've given up everything. How did you cultivate these inner resources to do that? Where did that come from?
So I feel I'm raised in a family where discipline was one of the keys. And so not bad discipline, but I'm raised in a very loving family, but we learned to be disciplined in the sense of choose and commit. And so that gift is something I received from my parents, where at that time I didn't always love them for it, but now I understand that a lot of humans do not have this level of leadership. So I feel one part of it is having this leadership to guide yourself through situations that feel uncomfortable. So there's a couple of things. When I know it, I have to do it is one of my things. I also call this the game of the lowest frequency. So when I know something is the lowest frequency in my life or business, I will have to shift that. If not within a day, second, third day. I do not give myself permission to linger in that. Of course, there are moments where I'm thinking the solution is still there. So I'm figuring out the thing. And then when I realize actually it's not, then the bigger things are for me, I am willing to risk it all. For me, losing the father of my children was me risking it all. That is the only way how I know to navigate it when I feel terrified, when I feel like I don't know. Right now, I'm shifting my entire business. I've created a very successful business. And there were parts in this business that were at the cost of me. I didn't realize it in the creation, but now I do. So I'm literally clearing it out, and it has huge consequences. It's like starting all over, but I'm choosing to align with the highest potential, also the highest form of wellness for me, freedom, fulfillment, prosperity, because I understand when I'm staying in the loop of, I will never get where I want to. So I prefer to go out of the loop. This journey out of the loop goes with huge lessons, always. And there's new loops again. But for me now, it's like my well-being first is the biggest lesson in all of this. I was so in service of all that I really forgot who I was. I also had huge lessons about money, because first I didn't know like how to receive money. And when I did, I had such an abundance of money that I felt very guilty about having all that money. And then there were all these people who didn't have it. So I started to give it all away because I was not willing to rise to the potential of, I am worthy of overflow of money. And because others are not having that, the solution is actually not lowering my vibration by giving it to them, like just kind of hoping for them to catch. It's allowing myself to stand in this and only to make happy investments for me. And sometimes that can be in the form of a donation, and sometimes, but not just kind of being this ATM machine for everyone around me. So this cycle came with all of these lessons. And there is a rhythm to these cycles. I call them soul cycles, loops. And so once you start seeing them, you can shift yourself out of that. Makes sense? You're writing. I know you have a
am
question.
writing, so I do that when you say something cool, and I'm like, oh, I want to hold on to that.
Yeah.
Two things in that my little sense of like ding, ding, ding. Can you talk to us about what happy investments are for you? Because I also believe that there's this reciprocity with abundance, and if we're putting our money into things that bring us joy, that has reciprocity, that is good for us, good for others, good for the greater good, then there is this whole ecosystem that thrives. And I really love this term, like happy investments. Now you only make happy investments. Can you tell me a little bit about what they are for you and for our listeners? Like if they wanted to start thinking about like this reciprocity with abundance and having this greater connection to it, that if they, because a lot of people, when they look at their bank accounts, they don't feel good about it. Or if they've got finance, or if they've been struggling week to week, they just have this whole relationship of money and bills, and it's just like, and they get themselves into all sorts of trouble with that because it just creates more scarcity versus more scarcity. Can you talk to us about like what happy investments are from you, from like what's a small happy investment to a big happy investment and everything in between?
Yeah, I feel, and I realize that because I now do big investments and they can feel not very happy. So happy investments are available at every level, just for you to know. You don't need like, I don't know, a 10K, 100K months in order to make happy investment. Not at all, because a happy investment is a vibrational exchange of soul alignment. So what that means is you feel genuinely excited, high vibrational, uplifted, initiated by investing in this thing, by investing in this person, by investing in the groceries. I think the groceries are an excellent way to practice. Most people will take groceries and they just put it in the thing and not even thinking. For me, the whole thing is me realizing that as I walk through the store, all these things are lined up for me. So I just take it in a whole bigger context. I'm knowing that there was a time that these groceries were not there. like in COVID time, actually pretty recently. I couldn't just get anything. It was, and so what starts to happen with us that we get used to everything we have, having a home, having this, having that. So one of the things is those things that seem so normal to you, to start re-energizing them and allowing it to be this experience of newness. Now, sometimes it's also this big investment, like this big program. I was recently on the airport in Dubai, and I was not planning on buying anything whatsoever. And my sister wanted to look at Louis Vuitton and purses. I just saw the most extraordinary purse, and it was radiating, ding, ding, ding. Didn't make sense to me, but I just felt the calling, and I bought it. And for me, it's not about the purse. It's not about the bag. It's about allowing myself when I know I'm in it. And so it's not investing in things that do not make you happy. So if you have a business and you're investing in your team and it's not making you happy, you have to clean up the show. Like I was in that state where I was just like making huge investments. I did not feel any gratitude. I actually felt resentment because I was working so hard at the cost of me that all these investments were no longer happy investments. They became a drain. So it's clearing up. And I want you to get, I didn't start there. I started in my business with happy investments. And as I was not allowing myself to evolve to the next level, they turned into not very happy investment. Now they're back on track. So it's a scale and an experience that is consistently in your space. And if you could just pause and stop with every exchange and either feeling the spontaneous ignition, which is easy, right? I just feel happy, easy. That's the easy part. Now let's see, we have blue letters, which are tax letters, right? They are blue in the Netherlands. The only letters who are blue. Now let's see if I can open this tax letter and feel hugely excited that I have to pay 40K and then another one of 15 and 25. This was really happening like the last month. It was like a consistent about, I will not open this letter until I'm ready to receive the happy investment. I will keep it closed. I was at a retreat. I was hosting a retreat on Ibiza, and some of my clients were in the car, and we got a fine on the car. And they were going to go into the conversation about the fine. I said, please do not. We're not going to have this conversation. I will only have this conversation if I can be in the space of receiving the joy of this experience. So it has all to do with intentionality and taking yourself into the ignition of it to turn into this happy investment or not to make the investment at all.
Gosh, I love that so much. And there's a few things that I do in that context, but not with that level of conscious awareness of it. I know there are certain things in business I will just not take action unless I'm feeling energized about it, I'm feeling excited about it, and that there's joy in my action, because I know the follow through on it is, if I do this in a, I can't be fucked, or like my frequency is not there, regardless of how good the whatever the thing is that I'm offering, the content, the whatever, there's no transference. It's just not going to be received that way. Or if I do it in, even if it's in stress and my frequency behind it is driven by adrenaline and cortisol, it doesn't connect the same way as that when I'm in my happy joy, it's like, oh, I'm doing this cool thing and here you go, share. And then that frequency transfers. And I do the same thing. Like even, it's just funny that you say that about your tax bills. Doing my own taxes, it took me, I think the last one I submitted late, but I wasn't willing to sit down and do it until I could do it in a frequency where I felt excited about it. And I was really wanting to connect with my numbers. I wasn't afraid of them. I was just, it's one of those exercises that it's a little bit tedious. You got to go through your bank statements and tick things. And once I get into it, I actually really enjoy it because I get this touch feel experience of my numbers. And I love having that kinesthetic experience of it, because often we just so walk along and we're like, tap, tap, tap. We don't think too much about it.
There will be a time in your business if it expands really rapidly that the disconnect of money like goes really fast because there's an abundance and the appreciation goes down and it's just normal and it goes here and there. 100%. I recognize
definitely. And I feel like I've been going through a very similar transition with that and been having to really monitor like where am I at each point and like not touching like income generating activities unless my frequency is there, but not with that same level of awareness that you're having, even with like looking at tax bills and beyond that. Like, this is an investment.
Yeah, and it's also like it creates weird experiences because I'm in the car with clients and I'm actually telling them to not talk about it because I'd done a whole day of retreat. And so my energy was kind of ready to be replenished. And so I was not ready to receive that because it was igniting irritation in me. And I'm like, not going there.
Wow.
Do you know what happened to it?
What happened?
I did not get a fine.
Oh, that's so great.
They didn't know in Spain how I had to pay it. It was really interesting. I came to the car. I said, well, you need to deduct this from my credit card. No, we will not do it. But where do I need to pay it? We don't know. Well, you could go to a random police officer and try to make it pay. I said, that's really weird. Like, I don't know. You know, they didn't know how I had to pay it, which was very interesting.
Wow.
I never had to pay, like, and it's not about the payment because I would have, because I actually asked him to deduct it from the credit card, right? But he was not into it. He was not accepting it.
Wow, so this is the gift of frequency alignment, right? Like when we don't take action, unless we're in alignment of that joy or that happy place, if we take action in anything less than that, we create chaos. Like the precision of our the precision of what we're creating isn't there. It's a bit wonky. You kind of get like the colored in picture, but you might be a bit outside the lines over here and a little bit just not colored in over there. But when you do this, like, I think that's just such a perfect example. You didn't end up with a fine at all. Nobody knew how to pay it. It was like this imaginary fine.
Yeah, and you know, if I would have, it would also be perfect.
Yeah.
It's both perfect. So there was no kind of, I was ready for both, understanding that everything is in bigger alignment, but it really, I'm keen on doing it and blending it in every component of my life, everywhere.
I love it. Yeah. Can you talk to us about these soul cycles that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
So everything like these themes, these soul cycles, and obviously like being that you're blending throughout all areas of your life, are these soul cycles, are these showing up not just in the space of like business? Are these showing up like, is it a consistent theme across your life with the one thing? How is this playing out? And how do we recognize if we are in one of these soul cycles?
So usually you don't feel choice.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you know you're in it, and it doesn't seem like you can get out of it, even though you have the knowledge, the understanding, but you're stuck in the loop and you're continuing to do it, even though you know it's not prosperous for you, it's not good for you, like, you know, and still you're in it. And then many people say willpower, all of that, it's not it. So if I go like big, little bit spiritual, we all have been beings of low awareness, okay? Like toddlers, babies in consciousness. Most people here listening have elevated that, expanded. And we didn't used to be like at university at all times. You see that in this world right now. If you ask, why are people doing these weird things and bad things to each other? It's because they have very limited consciousness. They do not have the field and the understanding we have. So if you go back, and this is what I do with people, I take them back to the moment where many of us have been leading empires, have been leading things and made very poor decisions. And because of that, usually a lot of people died, or like a lot of things broke down. Yeah, this is, if I take...
Yeah, it's resonating.
Yeah, and it's like all the way back. We don't need to go through all of that, like all the way back. You can do it through the Akashic Records, which is on this plane. What I do is I take it out of that. I take it into the planetary systems, which is a way bigger show than just this lifetime on the Earth, because there's many planetary systems and an app. So I take it into that, taking you to the core of that. And then restructuring, seeing this, what happened, forgiving yourself and understanding it was not because you were a bad person. It was because you didn't know. You didn't know. It wasn't on purpose making this thing. It was because of this. And so when you see that, I have a whole like a thing where a grid rewiring, where I rewire the grid into prosperity, abundance, into your mission, and into your purpose, but also into relationships, and then into God, which is your like the support system behind you, right? So the gatekeepers of the divine. And in that, I allow a whole entire new grid to arise, and that is established above. And then I take this all the way down in your life, and that's where you start seeing I'm free. I do no longer need to like be in this repetitive cycle of punishing myself. And so punishing looks in not earning any money, like being the savior, like always like at the cost of you. That was one I had. Like I was good because I made the decision, like I prefer to be at the cost of me. So this is how we can change soul cycles. And you will see it pouring in every component of your life at hyperspeed. It's phenomenal.
I was just so like, I was like, ooh, I could feel all of that like down my spine, receiving that as you were sharing that, because it is like this is the other thing that we do in this incarnation. Because we forget, and this has been like this journey of remembering as our multidimensionality accesses, and the more that we embody our soul frequency, we start to remember who we really are. And then who we've been in other lifetimes, or more so who we are in other different time space continuums, parallel realities, because it's all overlapping each other and it's all happening right now. And in this, and as we're remembering, like each one of us that are incarnated on earth right now, we're not insignificant beings. Like the likelihood of us being in physical incarnation is something like 1 in a trillion, which is you've got way more chances of winning the lottery, something 20 times over, than you have actually incarnating into physical form. And you have been specifically chosen, specifically granted permission to take physical form because of who you are, because of who you've been, because of all of these past leadership roles that you've been in, whether you're consciously aware of it and you're just, you're holding a physical body and there's all sorts of stuff going on behind the scenes on a quantum level because you're incarnating and you're holding those codes here. And then for some of us that are much more active in it, but we forget, and then we carry over these imprints, and then we wonder why we create these. And I love this, that you've stated it so eloquently, that particularly like a lot of us in leadership roles where we're responsible for other people's growth, development, clients coming through their business, also like where there's a lot we're holding in our field, where the conscious parts of it and the unconscious, because any of us that are in leadership positions that have platforms, there's all of those people that have been following us that we don't know about. They don't even comment on our stuff. They just look at it, but they're still receiving. We're still in that leadership role. So I love that you've brought such clarity to what a soul cycle like that feels like.
Yeah, it's very clear. And it was even more beautiful because I was on Ibiza. And for me, it was Atlantis. And to be very clear, I only tap into these very spiritual concepts if it's benefiting the alignment in presence. So I'm not going all geeky on what lifetime, when and why. It's like, no, we go there to change the grid, and that will be that. And so I saw myself actually in Atlantis, and I was standing there because Atlantis has been there. I was on Esfedra, right? And I was standing with my love, and I'm like, he's a medical doctor, GP, very like traditional, I'm like, I was standing looking at that, and I'm like, I remembered fully. And I said to him, and he was laughing. I said, you were my wife. You tried to protect me. I was realizing it's not just me stuck in the soul cycle, but actually with you, there are people around you duplicating this soul cycle lifetimes and lifetimes with you until you realize, and it's like, he was trying to protect me for my own like genius. And it's kind of similar in this lifetime, which is fascinating because now we could release it. So it goes even broader than just you doing it for you, because there's people involved with who you are co-creating right now. And you can detach these connections and allow like beautiful flow to arise rather than these repetitive patterns.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. And how is this, like having this realization and being able to create this shift out of this soul cycle, like as you mentioned with your beautiful partner, how is that now transforming into your relationship with him? What's available now that this is dissolving that wasn't available, now that there's not that protecting from your own genius?
So for me, I'm able now to listen to him. He used to talk, and do you know what I thought? I'm more consciousness. I know better. You do not have a clue. Spiritual arrogance, like 100%, right? But that was what I was thinking, because you don't really know. And now it's like, if he says something, he actually has something available for me with that. And this is where I can receiving and acknowledge his wisdom and his reflection in so much bigger ways. So instead of hearing it and kind of rolling my eyes, I'm now hearing him, understanding that he's actually offering me support and I'm not dismissing him. Very big change in our relationship.
I bet. How's that changed? Has that changed how he has been showing up for you? Like, has that changed in the connection that you've had?
Yes, because where I was not outspoken about it, but energetically keeping him at distance in particular subjects, right? We all do that. If I talk to people with wives and husbands, we have all these dynamics. And now I'm no longer closed, I'm opening. And because of this, of course, he feels heard and seen and acknowledged. And so this creates for him way more relaxation. It first ignited relaxation in my being, like, it's not your fault. Yes, forgive yourself. You don't need to do this to yourself. And then I could actually allow the release to happen in our relationship because I saw it wasn't personal to me. It wasn't an attack. I wasn't doing anything wrong. And he was literally trying to support me. So now you can come in. So it just changes, like you can feel the change, right? If you're in that dynamic and you shift it, and it's almost like woof. It's like when you see it, it's like everything starts to shift. And the reality and the people around you start to respond on that. And it's almost like every day I get a little present because I'm seeing it now in such a different way. I'm like, oh, look, before I would do this, and now I'm just not having to do anything. I'm able to receive. The receiving will be amplified. That is it. The receiving of the natural flow, the natural support, the natural, like that what is good. I'm no longer creating a bunker around me because I'm punishing myself for what I did. I don't know how long ago. I'm now open to, it's safe to open up. I am safe within myself. I'm no longer making those decisions right now that I did. Yeah.
And what an incredible platform to start rebuilding the new infrastructure within your business. And because we were talking about this as well a little bit before we jumped on, and I kind of just want to touch in here.
Okay.
Because I always love this part of I always love having this conversation, being that most of the listeners on my show have come through and received finance. We've helped them obtain finance to invest in either their personal growth or their professional growth or into their online business or whatever it is to grow wealth and create financial freedom. And I notice that there's such an ascension journey that happens within that. And at first, it's about creating the money for me. I want to create the money for me so that I can live the life that I want with as little responsibility as possible. Yet there's this intrinsic relationship between responsibility and freedom. You can't have one without the other. The more freedom you want, the more responsibility there is. It's just this kind of like, is dichotomy the right word? Or is this intrinsic relationship between these two ideals, like contrasting things? And I want to, because I know that you help people go through this, and I know that you've been through your own journey with this in creating multiple seven-figure businesses. Like, what's this journey been like for you, going from like shifting from the traditional like creating money and wealth grids into this embodiment from soul aligned guidance into creating something that is truly fulfilling and in alignment and sustainable? Because I think this is the evolution of what it means to go from, I guess, creating like 3D wealth to creating soul aligned wealth. And they're completely different because one is kind of empty and the other is so fulfilling and enriching and lighting up, and it's just the most delicious, one of the most delicious experiences on the planet. So can you talk to us a little bit about like what your journey has been with that and how you see clients shift through this, please?
So when I started, I was actually so excited with my business. And we'll talk more about that, right? Creating these online retreats, that I felt so excited. And so when I first started, when the money started to come, I was actually pretty surprised about that. That was where I was like, and I was doing a lot of inner work to connect with that. But somewhere along the line, it turned more, and a lot of people start there, but I did not necessarily start there, into chasing the money, right? And that energy is an energy which is never enough. You will never have enough money on the bank account that fills you up. So I am now back with where I started, which is it's gift driven. Everyone holds a gift in which when you are expressing this into the world, whether this is you leading teams or managing big companies or having being a spiritual teacher or being an artist, whatever it is, when we start to focus on the expression of our art, our gifts, who we are, now we're full, and from this fullness, there starts to be generated this magnetic field where people will come. And as we become the Olympic, because I always say in what I do, I'm an Olympic. I'm really good at this part. I never knew what I was good at. This is something I'm really good at. I'm an Olympic in this. When you touch your Olympic zone and you're like, this is it. Everyone has their Olympic zone. Now suddenly people are very, very much willing to invest in you because you are an Olympic. So it makes sense if they want to learn or if they want to hire or if they want to, of course they want the best. And if you are so fulfilling this gift, this expression, then that will automatically come. Plus you have the overflow of well-being in self. So it's going from chasing money, and whether you're in it or re-entering that, because sometimes we go out and in, if you allow yourself to be the Olympic in who you are. And obviously I also help people to figure out what is that part, because people are like,
my next question.
Actually, you are. Everyone is an Olympic. And you know, because in the channeled message, we just presented where you are an Olympic in, which is exactly what you do. And so when people come to my world, I will be able to channel their soul's frequency and where they are where the zone of their Olympic is. And I'm going to be very honest, that is the easy part. People are blown away by this. The alignment part in life is where I assist my clients most. Because that is the leadership, the willingness, the courage, that is what really takes it into physicality, because the rest is already here. I just translate the field and that will be like, oh, and now it's like, okay, now let's translate the field into physicality.
Wow. Do you know what image just kept like flashing to me the whole time that you were sharing that? Is when Michelangelo looked at the piece of marble that then became David.
Yeah.
In terms of like reading the field of what that really is.
Oh, yeah.
And then the alignment part is like chipping away.
Yes, 100%. And also know that when I channel a message like for you now, this is it now. But when we do it in 5 years, it will be even bigger. It's not done. Like it's not done. I'm just telling you, even in 6 months, there will be more. And so like you are the Olympic in this right now. And of course we're expanding. So this is your anchoring point where you are. And now let's make it even bigger. And that process will continue. So when we master this alignment piece and this soul mastery, right? This leadership in life, that is where we set ourselves free.
Wow. I just love that so much. So much. There has been so much gold that you've been sharing. I have one last question, and I ask every guest that I have on this show, because one of my intentions behind the show is also normalizing the journey to wealth. And the journey to wealth isn't always what you see on social media. Oh, look at me in my, I don't know, multi-5-figure month or 6-figure month or my 7-figure business, and it looks like I've done it overnight and everything's just happy and rainbows. That is not the path, that is not what it usually looks like. And this is my fun little question that I always love asking. How many would you say like failed businesses before you got this one? And what I mean by failed businesses, a failed business isn't necessarily something that totally crashed and burned, but something that you sort of like, don't do that anymore, and then went on to something else or went on to something else because it didn't quite work. So how many of those until this one actually then was able to birth and manifest and anchor into physical reality to be this expression?
So at this time, I would say I birthed my first official business where I went out of like being a social worker. That was 2019. I would say that was my first business. And now I actually birthed a new business, which is now located in Dubai in January. And that is a different energy. So it is my second. But, you know, I did all this, what is it called? Where like distributing like pills to, and like I tried all the things because I knew I was burned, like I was born for greatness. And it never worked because, and I needed all of that because that was just chasing the money. And there was nothing in me that felt fulfilled in doing that. So this soul alignment piece, this fulfillment piece is key to creating something which is exceptional, because I can do my work all day long. It energizes me. Talking with you, talking to my clients, going live on Facebook, creating master courses, programs. And I see that a lot right now online. People are like thinking they can go rich online fast. They don't like to teach. Why do you do it then? Go do something you absolutely love and then allow the wealth to flow in. So it's not for everyone is destined to be a spiritual teacher or to like be an online coach. You see a lot of them, and it's when this is fulfilling you, it feels effortless. You love it more than anything. That is the key to creating a successful business.
Yeah. And giving yourself permission to take the journey on all the other ones that flop.
Of course.
All the MLM adventures, the pills and
yeah, the MLM, that's what it's called. I'm like, when did I do that? Like investing 5K. Why?
Yeah. It was great. You learned so much along the way. I remember my first, and I think I've mentioned this on the show before, my first ever business investment was in this health product that was meant to cure incurable diseases. Have I told you this?
No, but I mean,
okay, right. Health product meant to cure incurable diseases. The psychic healer that I'd been seeing at the time, I was all of probably 24. I started seeing her when I was maybe 22. And this was like my first experience into the divine, because I didn't believe in God. I just didn't get any of the religion kind of thing. Just didn't make sense to me. I'm like, why is there this all punishing man in the sky? I don't want to subscribe to that. My rebel was like, that just doesn't make sense. And then, so this was the first part of me starting to connect with what I thought, I don't even know if I was calling it my soul back then. Maybe I was, I don't know, but this other part of me, and there's this whole metaphysical world. And she said she'd been seeing this guy who had this health product that had apparently cured him of his bowel cancer. It was called Switch 41. And she said that it was going to be the next big thing. And the company was looking for investors. They wanted $40,000 for 5% of the company. And there was no paperwork for it, like no market research, no contracts, nothing. Here's me looking for my magic pill to make me rich, thought I would buy into this health product. And I took down my sister and her partner as well with it, because my psychic healer told me this was going to be a big thing. 2 years later, the guy died of bowel cancer, the very thing the products that had sort of cured him from. There was no contracts, no nothing. I would have had better luck buying lotto tickets with that money. Yet, it was probably one of the most valuable and cheapest business lessons I have learned, because it taught, like, there was a few things that happened in that. Like, there was a very innocent part of me that died in that. And I guess that needed to be with business. Like, I learned so much about, you know, having the right structures in place, doing market research, learning, like, you can't trust people at face value. Their actions speak so much louder than their words. And there were so many pieces in that. And maybe not go to a psychic for business advice in that aspect.
Fantastic. Yeah, phenomenal. We just learn all the lessons, right? And we
wake up. So good. And I just laugh now. And because now if I was sitting there, that was probably, I don't know, excuse me, 13 years ago. But you know, when you do those, like, project into the future and see your 10-year self and have your 10-year self come back and connect with you and share with you and, like, embody their codes and their wisdom about what you're needing to shift right now. That's me. Me now is going back and talking to her. Yeah. And that anytime, like, I have these moments of, like, when I look over, like, some of the things where it's like, you know, we did the MLM thing, or we bought that health product that my psychic told me it was going to be the next big thing. Like, all of those little pieces, like, when I look back, they all come into this one. And this was all me learning to find my truth, this soul embodiment, to be able to hear these greater parts of myself, like the truth, my real mission, and chipping away those pieces until the David appears. Because with each time, like it gets more refined and more refined and more polished and more polished, and the clarity between hearing the guidance and being able to execute it, that reflex gets faster and faster till it's almost one thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. So Sigrid, you shared so much gold with us, and I know that there's going to be some of our listeners that definitely want to get in contact with you or want to know a little bit more about the summit. And I know there's some beautiful things that you have as gifts for our audience. Would you be kind enough to share those with us, please?
Yes, I have 2 gifts. So one is that I'm currently hosting an online retreat, which is called Quantum Leap. I gathered phenomenal women like Kelly, and we go deep into 30-minute conversations. At the end, I give them a channeled message, and all to quantum leap in life, business, and mission. All of these women are successful. They created like all of this success in both life and business. So that is available. You can go there. And if you want to become more part of what I do, I also do a weekly 5-day Divine Wealth Intensive. And I give in 10 minutes, very practical, also channeled guidance on particular topics and how to align to your highest potential. So that is literally a fast track into alignment. These are called Divine Wealth Intensive. So there's 2 gifts for you to go and enjoy.
I love them. And if they want to explore their gifts, like what who their Olympian is in this incarnation, and that's something they can reach out and talk to you about too, about how to like bring that piece out in them as well.
Yes, what we can then do is also allow them to schedule a call with me, and then in like say 15 minutes, I will show them their vision, and then the next step, like the transmission, and then also how to really get it, because just the transmission is great, but it doesn't necessarily land the steps in physical reality. So that is also an option.
Amazing, incredible. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing your magic and your gold and your such generous gifts. Beautiful souls, it has been a pleasure and honor. As always, if you have loved today's episode, please like, share, tag your friends, because if you found value in it, I can guarantee somebody else will as well. I'm going to put all of the links in the comments as always. So you'll have the free registration link for the retreat, and then there'll also be another link to be part of the Divine Wealth initiations. And I'll also have Sigrid's socials all over the place, so you can be able to find her in all sorts of different places. And if that's all too hard, you can always PM me and I will love to connect you. Sigrid, thank you so much for being with us. I love you loads, and yeah, from my heart to yours. Mwah.
Thank you so much. I loved being here. We have such a great vibe. And also for the people listening, I love being here. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Lifestyle Finance Show. If you loved this interview, please feel free to share it, because if it made a difference to you, it will absolutely make a difference to others. And if you are a coach, healer, or mentor, and you'd like to explore getting finance set up for your business so you can get paid in full from day one and financially support your clients in a far greater capacity than just your in-house payment plan, head over to my website, www.lifestylefinanceco.com, and follow the prompts so we can explore this further. Big love, beautiful soul, and thanks for the support.